Before we begin, there are too many deaths a week, and this happens. They won't come because there's not enough demand in your city, causing it to require commercial or industrial zones, and even office. We should build more schools, but it doesn't work at all. And Princess International Airport was built, and still no incoming passengers from the city. And the reason why is unemployed, and sometimes too many jobs available, and I need to fix it. Welcome back to another episode of Design to Megalopolis, a City Skylines project. This is the 51st episode. Every single episode has 5 parts. Recording limit is 3 months. After 41 episodes, we need some improvements to make the traffic more lighter with the underground highway. To make the city growing, you need to require more demands included with commercial and industrial areas on the other side and the hilltop. And also wanted to minimize the rest of the public transport vehicles. And somewhat, we need to minimize the demands or expenses with the current timetable limits. And that's it. Let's get started. But first I need some train tracks to do the work near the river. But the curvature do not work at the same time because I didn't complete the rest of the days on the previous episode. At the end of the video, the population will be down from 397 to 340. A single train track was built in the previous episode because I need to elevate before curvature. Then after curvatures, we need to follow the rest of the paths during the timetable or even a time lapse. And for some times I accidentally record at the lowest frame rate due to loss of the central processing units or even central processing units that could have 8 or more tiles, leading to farming industry. And we need to adjust the same tiles. Carefully zone the area. If you mistakenly zone that area, it will try again this over. It's called Tamburg Farms. Because Tamburg Farms is a farming industry, not even an ore or farming, but not even trees doing like that. It also includes a farming industry, but a certain thing we need to do is to add some firehouse to avoid spreading many fires as you need. Then the next thing we need to do is adjust some oil areas in the curvature. Now what we need to do is to build a road. Roads are sharply curves than the other ones. If you don't think that this episode may contagiously straightened and it's not even curved, then start over. If you don't start over, then try again. If you mess up with the straight lines near the guidelines, then try to recreate as well as they want to. There's certain nice the entire routes because the entire trees with transparent opaques, we should never have some oil or anything. And even the rocks, replace rocks into farms because this district is called farming. Because farming is not acceptable when the frame rate drops and even the encoding preset. When encoding preset is very high, start over. If you don't start over, you're messing up with a frame rate. And add some water. That requires water in everything. This district requires water because it's straight and not even curvy. Then build many roads as you need, and if you messed up with building some roads, then try again. Replacing is a differential state that opportunizes the frames because too many frames could drop at a certain rate, including the farming areas. But then adjust the road with the zoning areas. If you set it to none, try again. If you don't set it to none, then start over. If you ever have a mistake, then rezone on the other side of the roads. But then if you build a road again, and or even zoning at the industrial zones, that could lead to much better. So every single episode has 5 parts, 30 minutes of recording, and even a time lapse that you don't do the work. Every month is 12 singular minutes in one part. Recording limit is 3 months because cargo terminal is unflattable. Once the cargo terminal is finished, or once it's connected, the cargo train will come and it will be available to all of the trucks. If you mess up with something, please try again at a certain frame rate. Building some commercials could easily do the work with some commercial zonings. And the most of these things you could have make commercial zones on the other side of the Thunberg Desolations, an oil industry, and the Thunberg Desolations on the other side of District, because it's the other Rhimatory. And recording limit is 3 minutes. In the past second, it will last until September 1997. And one final thing. Too much curvature. It will be bloated as one or more lossless desynchronization, because I need some 2-lane roads, because what is coming up right now on the consort, because consort is messing up on this district right after farming and dezoning. The next thing we need to do is to demolish buildings and abandon, or even a train station, because train stations do not much as itself or occupied. We need to rebuild this again or relocate anything, because the lines don't anything with this underpasses over the ground, and replanted with large ones and the curvatures, because curvatures don't go even anywhere else. But how do I tell that these roads don't desynchronize to each other's? And the worst thing must have some power lines, because power lines don't eventually synchronize, don't was they synchronize between two systematic options. What is they doing? And what they're doing is some power lines, and the other power lines must be connected to another district, because another district has 25 tiles. After 50 episodes, the entire segment is incomplete with some dirt roads, gravel, or anything. Once they got gravelled out, and the other one would be gravelled, don't tell me how would they happen. And at least one sequential thing that doesn't move to other gravel roads or something. Once the construction is finished, you're gonna upgrade roads, because these streets don't apply to each other's. And consort, because the consort is located near consort, even on consort. And the zone, because highways don't like zoning in that area, and must have junctions to have a stop sign, because stop signs don't exact, because we need something more employed, available jobs or anything. We need to find the unemployment to fix the unemployed, and more commercial zones, because there's no demand on residential zones, because because we installed the realistic population, and I forgot something. Don't like highways. Highways don't like zonings, and zonings don't like highways in that area. Floating cafes. There are two of these floating cafes on personal distractions because I need to fix the unemployment, build more commercial zones or industrial areas. And the ones that thing, we need something else that you need the same thing. We need to build more trees because power plants may distract some trees, and distractions called trees messes up with something because this is the 51st episode or episode 51, and then downgrade to 3-lane highway, 3-lane road highway, or miserable because there are too many abandoned buildings, not enough workers, and fix the unemployment because the title is called Fix the Unemployment. Fixing the unemployment, or I forgot something, we need to demolish auto bulldoze because trees or power lines, because power lines don't have anything, and I need to demolish everything because there's not enough buyers, products, or something. What else could it make? Since the areas of residential don't do the same thing. Once they got a residential, demolish a 2-lane road with a square of 400 or something. With a square of 400, must be demolished, removable because there are too many trees throughout the limit, and you can't build on slope, and sometimes slope too steep on it, and you can't build because slope too steep, and the other ones could distract one of the steep hills and miserable changes right down to the other. And the last thing we need to say that there is a very low sound in the first segment of this part or the second segment of this part. You could easily build more trees to increase the environment because I don't mess up with something else. Because some junctions don't do the same thing and arrange rezoning the arrangements because too many trees could lead to power outages, and power outages could miserabilities, and you don't do anything because of the too many trees could distract some power lines, and the power lines could disconnect through the entire power plants, power lines or power lines. Large trees don't distract some power lines and trees or somewhat anything on the highway. The next thing we need to do is to fix the traffic on the other side of this island or hilltop between the rest of these following on truck side of the industrial lanes, because industrial lanes don't do the same thing as they work out. And the final thing is the third part, because third part is the segment when you need to show something else, because the traffic is too heavy near Princess International, because Princess International has an industrial areas and the airport, because we need some power lines to do the work. And one more thing, you should not have some trees going from beyond this intersection, because intersections must have many trees as you need, because they're all connected with these cargo train terminals. And one singular thing, it is not connected with these automated toll lines. And the other thing is to adjust some junctions, even on the airports, and somewhat. The next thing we need to do is add some residential areas near Princess International, because Princess International drops a lot of frames because the central processing unit is overheating, and and because of this one, you should have lots of things. And some thing we need to looking for was the oh great the the elevator don't do the work. Must build first the some sort. Once we need to do is must turn this thing off because there are too many multiple problems, because multiple problems must have required water. And what we need to do with these road layouts, because road layouts must distract all of these consent, because consent frameworks don't measurable time to take out of distractives, because this episode or every single episode might gonna take some time. And these road layouts are for industrial, not even industrial, residentials, because residential zones doesn't have a demand, because there are no demands every 6 tiles, and every 6 tiles don't uh, have the required population, because the population is decreasing and too many deaths a week, and how many births they're very slow than the other ones, because we need something else to require more infrastructural works and with some light traffic, because avoid heavy traffic on the other side of the mountains, even on the other most of the land, because uh, uh, because there is not enough synchronizations between 3 or more central processing units to create a new work from a singular detection, because detections do not have a houses distracting with some differentials. And one more thing, if you build too many roads, it could lead to CPU overheats. When a CPU overheats, or a central processing unit overheats, you could try this again, because the recording is too lag or even or miserably something. Once the construction is finished and you're ready to uh, own this land or a plot, if you ever think of whatever you need to adjust some water, and there's nothing to do with this industrial zonings, we need 12 squares or 16 squares, but 16 squares requires don't do anything, um, unless the industrial services is closing down or abandoned. Build more trees, because building more trees will not increase the environment, and the environmental issues could lose out of stake. So one thing must have some disturbances and and some airports. You can only place more trees on in the other side of the airports, and the other side of the trees near the airports. You can only have one less thing, because there are 2 less thing on the cargo airports on that requires downloadable contents and 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 a new district called I don't Maribor Olibari, because Maribor Olibari is the district the new district near Princess International, because I need to demolish all abandoned buildings, because abandoned buildings don't have workers. There are too many workers and thousands of problems, because the number of multiple problems don't do the same thing and upgrade. Watch again, districts and the other industrial areas must require tram lines, because I need to adjust the color and the another color on watcher greens and watcher purples, because must set it to night time or somewhat. You can only set it in the night on watcher purples and daytime on watcher greens. But first I need to remove some trees. There are too many trees, don't work as well. It's a natural resource, because natural resources must decide what to build more for the instruction areas. and I forgot something. And so many trucks going from there to that side. And the worst thing is put another upgrade some infrastructures, checking the mail and that and the other ones. Add more commercial zones to other zoning districts and carefully draw the line and even on uh, industrial areas, even on farming and vegetation, forestry, even on landscaping, on somewhat. For most of the faster areas, must upgrade a highway, change it into highway because I need to go because the traffic must go faster and faster. You should never do this again. So landscaping again and other landscaping tools don't seem. And once a thing, change it to a one-way, 4 lane or a three lane road because there are 3 lanes, one each singular detection. Add some stop signs on trains because I, trains don't do anything because occupying their spaces. Once a thing, you must require some commercial zones to avoid noise coming from the area. The pollutions don't commercialize as well. So it requires a hospital, a police station, and a fire station, and create a path for that tolerable thing. Once it's complete, you must decide whatsoever in the other side of the lines, in creating unstable perfectual lines because residentials do not zone on that area, and the other ones must require a self-servicing line going from there. We need to check the Montreal area, and the other office areas should have more commercial zones. Zoning is not implementing. Then the default style should not decide. And on one extra situation, and they're still missing some trolley buses. Trolley buses don't connect on tram tracks because I don't see anything on tram tracks. Then rebuild again. And one final thing is still missing with some residential zonings. On Wachigan Purples must have a heating area because we need electricity or heating. And a recent news coming from this area should decide what is going on here. Encoding preset may be overloaded. Please turn down the encoding settings on the volume. And the other volume don't do anything. And you could someone else what he is doing. For somewhat, as we expected to build more trees on the other side, no, not trees, the residential, because housekeepers, and the newer ones don't have demands, but it requires commercial and industrial zones because they don't do anything as well. And the last thing we need to do is on the other side, some bridges going from there because overpasses don't do anything, don't match anything, and it doesn't match because there are bridges on it, suspension cables, and the other side of these suspension cables don't miserably do anything because 30% of the central processing units don't exactly what it's doing. At the exact part of this episode, don't change their rule sets because every highway situation in this district causing to underground their prosecute because heating don't match the same wavelength. But we need to do is to some boiler, no, not the boiler, geothermal plant connected to, but where's the power? The power is required to have some geothermal power, geothermal heating plant, because heating plants must require trees, rocks, and anything. In between them, it's supposed to uh, synchronize three or more sequential feelings what is expected, because too many rocks could easily landscape on the other side of this. And the last thing we need to do is the other side of Rhimatory, because Rhimatory is the largest city in Caribbean region, formerly than Montrayana. And something's wrong here in this Japanese district that civilizes their own wavelength, because I need 1200 squares in this consumable, decidables, and the hilltop on the other side, because the hilltops don't do anything, because 1200 every segment, because 1200 every segment don't synchronize one Japanese segment, because Japanese district called Kashmanji. Kashmanji is a measurable politified termule, a terminal on under the tree and the side is like this. So the first thing we need to say is some power plants going there don't match anything else, but that doesn't do anything else. We need to sort something more, because I just want to make sure this area could lose the frame drops. When a frame drops, you could lose this episode. Every episode could lose every frame, because every frame don't surpasses nearby. As they expected, a large of commercial zonings, power lines, or anything, because power lines should be on the other side of the bridge. That is wrong, because we need to build a road again, because I accidentally crushed it. Frame drops it in about 2 or more minutes. Synchronizing 3 spherical moments in one thing, and one more add distractions, because there are some realistic momentum, and there must be something wrong. If you turn this thing on, there's still not enough electricity. There's not enough electricity. If you use electricity for heating, it doesn't work. No electricity for heating. That requires or something. Buildings are forbidden to require heating or anything. Buildings are forbidden to use electricity, but it requires heating. And the rest of assured is a recent some underpasses going on from underground. They messed up with on the 12th episode, because 12th episode is messing up some overpasses or the highways, creating a singular situation on that prospective highways. And one more thing, building a highway ramp causing to lead on distractions. Too many heavy traffic that leads to heavy traffic. Don't do it well, but they don't do the work as well as it takes. Since the other side of this area could destroy one or more commercial buildings, that leads to one out of stake and outside these connections. So the next thing we need to do is some overpasses digitizing. No time to curb on the other ones. Losing a frame rate, and losing is not disconceivable. Encoding maybe overheating presets and turning down in the settings. And forgot something. It's something else that you have to try start over, because starting over is not consent. If you're unlucky to build a highway ramp, then start over, because every single episode has 5 parts, one or three limits every 6 minutes, because every single episode or even a segment has 6 minutes. 6 minute time limit. 3 month time limit is an overdue to express one's a thing, because one way uh one way roads basically interruption. It does not change 3 out of 10 frames could lose their connections. Could lose one out of one more thing on the other side. Renaming the station has north and eastern part of these transfers, because in a minute ago has northern southern transfers. Northern and southern transfers causing to interstate some trains, because I don't know how they work. Only commercial zones must defend the pollution on that area, because trees are decisable. Because I don't mean this. Trees could distract some power lines again, and on the other side of this episode. And here is the final result. Every single episode needs improvement. The population is down from 397 to 340 in thousands. But still, there is no demand on residential zones. But our goal is to have at least 600,000 population at the end of 2009. Consider zoning more commercial, industrial, and office zones. But they're ignoring it. There is still not enough workers. It will be becoming abandoned from the city. Coming up next, we need something more improvements to grow the city better. I'll be back in the next episode.